Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's the beginning of September, and you know what that means. We get another Halo Master Chief Collection dev blog update from 343 to give us all the news and notes from August in terms of how development for MCC coming to PC and bringing Halo Reach to the Xbox has been going. We get a nice, big, thick, juicy blog here, so let's jump into it and see what goodness we can get from the team. Howdy, hey folks, welcome back to the channel. As you know, it is my desire to help bring you some joy with every piece of content that I create. I'm the Coltrane, and let's take a good look at the August update and just see what kind of information we can glean from this with what Postums and the rest of the team has shared, as well as to see what we can expect in the coming months. Jumping into the blog here, the first piece of news is the MCC Map Migration update. So last month, on the 12th and 26th of August, 343 did a migration of Halo 3, Halo Reach, and Halo 4 game types and maps that were user-created from the legacy titles to the MCC. And after those processes happened, we see here that we had 9.2 million pieces of user-created content that came from those legacy titles to MCC. That is mind-boggling numbers. When they first announced this, I thought this was extreme fan service, something that definitely they didn't have to do, but they willingly stepped into another plate of proverbial spaghetti from a code standpoint to bring all of that stuff from the legacy titles to the MCC. And obviously it was something that people desperately wanted because these numbers are crazy. Now, as they say here, this stuff will become available to us once Halo Reach releases on both the PC and the Xbox One. So that's really exciting, but I mean, just mind-boggling amounts of stuff. Can't wait to play some of those really fun game types on the PC and Xbox One. That will definitely be a great time. So definitely show some love to any dev you might interact with on Twitter or any social media, because this is crazy. Big first piece of news here in the update, so wanted to point that out. Moving on to the next, we do get some information about flighting progresses and some recap. As I'm sure you are well aware of, the first Fireflight flight happened in August, a couple weeks back, where we got to play some Halo Reach. Fireflight, the actual gameplay that's playing over the video right now, is some of that. I was able to get an invite and was able to enjoy and play some of that. And so the first piece of news that Postums brings up here is, after he and Sketch and the publishing team have kind of been thinking about their communication about the blog updates and the game updates as how development continues to go for bringing Reach to the PC and Xbox One, they decided they're going to start doing some weekly recaps and status reports in addition to these big info jumps each month. So that's really great. Be looking on the community forums for some of these weekly reports, it looks like. I think this is great, right? Because in every industry, people who are outside of whatever piece of industry always want news and notes, right? We always want more information, and so the fact that 343 is going to do this, I think, is going to help kind of satiate fans a little bit more. It's going to minimize dry spells, and we're just going to get a lot better idea of what's happening in development. So I think that's awesome. They do give us a Fireflight update or recap based on the most recent flight that happened, which again was August the 24th through August the 27th, which had the primary goal to test matchmaking on PC. 10,000 users were invited, and they say here that they had a 55.5% participation rate. Now that might seem like, holy crap, only half the people played. Why didn't more people play? But actually, the invitation method that was used, as well as how it was kind of announced like the day of, more or less, that's pretty great to have over 50% of participation. And to further that, there was a 90% success rate of matchmaking of players who played, and at one point they had a peak number of 800 players matchmaking together. And that's awesome. As we see here, it looked like most average wait times were only about 24 seconds during the allotted play session hours that they gave during the flight, and I can attest to that. I did not wait hardly at all to get into the game, so that was really, really awesome. Moving ahead, they say here that there's a chance, based on their reflection of the data, that they might rope in another flight for Firefight, but they're not unsure about that yet. We'll get some more news about that as the weeks progress. However, Postums does say if no other flights join the mix, the next flight that they're going to schedule on the docket is an Xbox PvP flight. Now, there's no ETA for that yet, but the fact that they're talking about this as being the next flight is really encouraging because it means that we're getting closer to having Reach workable and runnable in addition to the other titles on MCC on the Xbox. And that actually leads us into the next major piece of news on the blog, is to get an Xbox One development update from Michael Farney. We saw him give us some news and notes about this in previous updates, but essentially what we see here is the memory constraints of the Xbox One, in addition to the other titles within Unreal Engine 4, is still something that is causing development to take a long time, and for good reason, right? I mean, they're bringing by the time Reach comes, an 11th game engine to the MCC. There is so much stuff going on. It's a total just play the spaghetti when it comes from a development standpoint. But this interview here with Michael Farney really kind of gives some perspective about just what the team is dealing with, why it's taking so long, and hopefully if you have been frustrated as to why is it taking so long to get Reach to the PC, come read this. It's going to give you some perspective as to why. Again, the biggest piece of it is the fact that the memory constraints just have to be delicately figured out so that everything can run under the constraints. And it looks like as they do work on Halo Reach and bringing that to MCC, that it kind of messes with the other titles, which requires them to have to go back and review those other titles to make sure that they still work with the addition of Reach. So hopefully you can understand that, yeah, this is definitely a real headache in some regards to fix, but it looks like it is being sorted out. It's just taking a little while. One thing I did want to point out from this interview with Michael Farney is the fact that for PC, uncapped frame rates are being worked on. That's something I've seen a lot of people ask about on Twitter and Reddit and things, and so I wanted just to draw attention that this is something they want to do for the PC titles, so that is super, super awesome. Uncapped frame rates are incredible in any game, so it's so cool to hear that that's something that they are trying to bring about. And then as we round out the blog, we have another section of DuckTales that talks about some different bugs that have been discovered as they work on bringing Reach to the PC. They have a video of one such where in the mission Long Night of Solace, there was a bug that caused certain portions of the mission to not spawn in as a result of them making cutscenes skippable in this mission for speedrunning purposes. And so what happened here was that the saber just wouldn't spawn, and so your character would just continually die. So that's kind of funny if you want to go check that out. And then closing the blog as we get a scoops from Mr. Cooper, which dives in a little bit more to some of the technical components of what development for these games back on the old 360 days kind of looked like from a processor standpoint, and then kind of that gives some perspective and context to what bringing it to Xbox One is kind of like. There's a cool tour of the old Bungie building here that you can watch. As many of you probably know, this building in the Seattle area was destroyed not too long ago this past summer. Bungie's now in a different location. Of course, 343 doesn't use the building, so this old building was destroyed, but it's just kind of crazy to think about that, where Halo was born and crafted, that building no longer exists. So just you can kind of take a look at that, and then it talks a little bit about some different title update related bugs or issues that were present before the title update. So anyways, something just interesting to take a look at if you want some of the deep dive from a technical component. Other than that though, Postums just rounds up the blog talking about how it was a crazy month getting the fire flights done, and then getting prepared as they get ready for future flights and continue to adjust their news deliverance and with how they're going to now go to the weekly update. So all in all, a pretty good blog. Let me know in the comments below what piece of news was most interesting to you. We'll talk about it there. As always, choose some joy in your life. Go give that to the next person you interact with. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then I would invite you to leave a like, as well as consider subscribing and hitting the bell if you'd like to see more content from me. But let's not leave it there. Interacting is always the best part, so I want to invite you to a couple places where you can do that with me. The first is Twitter. I'm constantly tweeting about anything game related, as well as just sharing my everyday life, and would love to interact and talk with you there. Also, would love to invite you to come hang out with me on stream sometime. I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday by 9 p.m. Eastern. Would love to invite you to come hang out there and talk about any games you're playing, as well as just experience whatever I'm playing at that time. Lastly, would also love to invite you to come give our podcast a listen, the Fair and Balanced Play podcast. I and some friends talk about anything in gaming, anything that's happening in the industry, and would love to invite you to come join in on that and interact with us there. But regardless of what you choose to do, I hope you choose joy in your life today. And I hope you take that joy and you go give it to the next person you interact with. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.